have to do this or no one's going to hear our music. We got to play in Oslo in Norway last year. That was really cool just in terms of like getting invited out there to play. And we're all into black metal, and so we did all the touristy things while we were there. In my opinion, the Scottish kind of death metal scene is the best in this part of the world in terms of like bands, but also fans.
Hey, it's Heroek, and this episode is sponsored by me. Well, kind of. If you don't know, I recently started a clothing line called Quest Clothing, which you can shop right now. I'll leave some pictures here on the screen, but we got the core collection, which is just this sleek black and white design on a bunch of products. And then we also have some more like merch style stuff with cover arts for my songs and things like that. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I'm really excited that I now have it. And so expect a lot more collections, a lot more designs coming out soon. I'll leave a link to it down below, and if you want to stay up to date with any new releases or anything like that, follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram. So go get cool designs like this, or even this, and you'll be helping me support all of this, the podcast, the music, everything. Plus, it just looks cool. We even got this nice big letter design on the back. Look at that. Look how cool that looks. So head to the link in the description to get yourself some Quest clothing, and make sure to follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram for updates with new collections and stuff like that. And now, back to the episode.
He's the guitarist of a London band who combined unhinged aggression and a harrowing atmosphere, and their new album, In His Blood, comes out February 28th. It's Michael Brodsky, guitarist for Vacuous. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you all learn more about the band, learn more about this new album, everything like that.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, no, it's good to have it coming out soon, a month today. So yeah, done
Yeah,
done a few of these, and yeah, it's just excited for everyone to hear it now.
yeah, yeah. So how is the general? I mean, I'll call it like a press tour, like doing all this promotion for the new album been so far?
Good. I think it's like it kind of feels like we're catching up to sort of, or everyone is sort of like catching up to where we are because this album's been done for actually a really long time. Like I recorded my guitar parts for it in September or October 2023.
Okay.
So it's kind of like we've been like sitting on it for a long time and just haven't been able to talk about it. So it's nice to like help people know that these
Be
songs
able to
exist
share it
now,
with the
and
world. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So in that sense, it's kind of like it feels like getting a kind of a bit of a burden off our chest.
Awesome. And so before I dive into like the band and especially this new album, but your music in general, a bit about like you personally, what was your first experience with music like, or what made you want to pursue music?
So I don't necessarily come from like a really musical household. Like my parents
Yeah.
didn't play instruments or anything, but my mom would listen to like rock, like of her generation, like The Who, Cream, Jimi Hendrix kind of stuff. So I was into it, but it was like my mom's music. But I was drawn to like guitar-based music. And I think I kind of developed an interest in music myself when I started skateboarding around like age 10 or 11. And it was like the two things kind of came at the same time where I'm like listening to music on skateboarding videos and like seeing what other kids at the skate park are into. And it was like, this was like the early 2000s. So I wasn't super discerning, but it was like a mix of, say, like, the new metal of the time, like punk, pop punk, and some like older hard rock like AC/DC and Iron Maiden, Metallica. And yeah, just kind of latched onto that and eventually kind of gravitated towards the heavier things. And yeah, I started playing guitar shortly thereafter. And, with that, I kind of developed a bit more of an appreciation for the bands that were, like, I guess, more metal bands like Metallica, Pantera, Judas Priest, where I was like, I can kind of find this a bit more interesting to play on guitar. But in terms of like heavy, heavy stuff, I think it was when I heard Slayer for the first time that was like turning point for me. Like this is like not this is not rock. This is evil shit that and yeah, it's kind of been like uh yeah, slippery slope down into extreme metal from there.
Yeah, awesome. And so if you mentioned like not growing up really in a musical family, was there anything else you like wanted to do or were thinking of doing as like a career before the possibility of music came up?
I mean, so music as a career has never really been something that was on my radar. I'm in my 30s and this is like um I guess the first time I'd say this is maybe something I'd consider more as an
Yeah,
elevated hobby, let's say, like it's more than a hobby at this point.
a hobby
Um,
that you're
not
making some money from.
well, I mean, like, we're not at the point where we any of us can quit our day jobs. Like we
Yeah,
we
yeah,
all
yeah.
have to have some other kind of income. Um, so yeah, that I've always wanted to play music in terms of like wanting to be creative, but it's just like when you're in this kind of heavy and extreme music, it's like you look at your heroes and like unless you're maybe like Cannibal Corpse who are playing huge, big arenas, like
Yeah,
bands that I look up to like Incantation, Autopsy, like those they're playing 35 years into their career, they're playing tiny clubs. I doubt any of those people are doing making loads of money off of their music. So it's kind of
yeah.
like it grounds you a bit knowing that like that, this is you do it because you like it, not because it's gonna give you a career really.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And so
But yeah.
how has it been so far balancing kind of like music and a day job, or how have you found ways to make time for the band?
Um it's a balancing act. Like it's not always easy and it's like we all have different um commitments and our availability is kind of all over the place for a lot of us. I think in terms of like the band getting going originally, the timing of it was pretty important given that like we put out our very first demo, I think it was March or April 2020. So like shortly thereafter the lockdown happened and we were like, left with loads of time on our hands to basically just fine tune
Yeah,
our songs and like figure out what we wanted to do. So I feel like that was quite important in terms of like, all right, this is something that's actually worth investing more time in. And then when things opened up again, um, we already had kind of a good foundation of what the band was about. So I think that contributed to it. In terms of like, yeah, balancing it nowadays, I'm quite lucky in that I have a part-time job basically, and my employers are very understanding. They're involved in other creative ventures themselves, so they can appreciate that this is something that occasionally I'm going to need to take time off for a show or a tour or whatever. But
yeah,
it's a challenge. I mean, there's not only your employment, there's also like if you've got a partner or family, like none of us have kids, but like, you still got to take annual leave to go on tour. Maybe you might want to go on a holiday with your partner, kind of thing. So it's like so many things to balance together when
yeah,
you're in a band like us.
yeah. Awesome. And getting the band actually together, like that formation right around the pandemic, like you mentioned. How did the name Vacuous come about, or how did you guys come up with that name?
Um, I can't recall exactly, but
No
because we were
problem.
throwing names, it was like, the WhatsApp chat was like
Yeah.
name idea, like um but I think one thing that sort of brought us around to the name Vacuous was I think we wanted something that was like concise, one word. It's really hard to like find one word band names nowadays. And something that wasn't gonna pigeonhole us stylistically, like if we went for something really brutal, like disemboweled entrails or whatever, then it'd be like, all right, there's a kind of a scope to what we can do with this name. We're gonna have to people are gonna have certain expectations, whereas
Yeah.
Vacuous, I think it leaves that door really open. Um, so that was it. I want to say the word vacuous, Joe, our singer, came up with it, and it's a reference to a video game that he was playing, but I can't tell you more than that. I
Okay.
just remember liking it and being like, let's
Yeah.
go with that.
Yeah, no worries. And so, I mean, early days, like, sorry, how did you guys get into live performing? Let's just go straight up with that.
Live performing. Yeah, so as I said, that actually came kind of like a little bit later in the band because
Hmm.
of the timing of it. Like we were rehearsing, doing our demo, and then COVID happened, and it's like there were no shows. So we hadn't played any shows in at that point. Then we started working on an EP, which which we did over COVID, and it wasn't until 2021, like end of 2021, that we got that things opened up and we were able to play. And yeah, at that point, the band had like expanded into a five piece. We started off as a three piece, and now there are five of
Yeah.
us. So it was like I think it was kind of a blessing in disguise in that we were able to like figure our shit out outside of the public eye, and so I think we did pretty well on our first few shows because we had music out that had gotten like decent reviews and um, had been pressed on vinyl already by the time we played our first show, which is kind of uncommon. Usually people kind of cut their teeth
Yeah.
playing, gigs left, right, and center. But yeah, so
Yeah. So
that's
what,
kind of how it came about with the band.
yeah. And what I tripped myself up with earlier was during the pandemic, were you making music around a live show or thinking of what your live shows would be like?
Um, no, not really, because it was like the very first demo we did, like just before the pandemic, was like us writing in the rehearsal room, and
Yeah.
then working over lockdown. It was like so like to break it down, like we all had home recording setups individually, and it was like send ideas back and forth and like hashing songs out that way because we couldn't meet up. So I think like we kind of just focused on the songwriting aspect of like, let's try to get the songs, like, let's try to figure out what we want to do songwriting wise. And it was like, we didn't really think about how we're going to play this stuff live because that was just so far removed from what we were doing at that point, from where we were. It just seemed so far away. So then when we met up, um, at the time, Joe, our current vocalist, he was drumming and doing vocals. And then we kind of, after our EP came out, we met up to rehearse that material, and we are like, we've kind of like been over ambitious in terms of what this band, the three piece, can do. So that's when we made the decision to get a new drummer and Joe to just do vocals. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like we sort of figured out our songwriting before thinking about what we wanted to do live, and then had to adjust in order
Yeah.
for
But
it to all work on stage. And I'm kind of glad we had that time um, during COVID to figure that out because yeah, it would have just been a lot more stressful, and we would have been under a lot more pressure to do something
yeah.
that maybe we didn't feel. Or we would have had to compromise on the songs, which we didn't want to do either.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And getting into this new album now, In His Blood, that's upcoming. I'm really excited to hear it in, like you said, a month, but right now you have the debut single and the title track single for it, In His Blood, out now. Just tell
Yeah.
us what went into that song and what about it, one, made it the title track, and two, made it the first single off the album.
So in terms of writing that one, that was one of the first songs that I remember writing for the record. And um the our previous album, Dreams of Dysphoria, is this kind of drawn out, very kind of meandering death doom, very atmospheric record. And like which is what we wanted to do at the time. And I kind of approached the follow-up being like, I want to go in the complete opposite direction, and I want to do something that's really like spontaneous sounding, really like unhinged, and like just that hits really hard really quickly. And so that was one of those first songs. And I think a thing that I realized writing that one is that like using like a more conventional song structure, like a verse, chorus, etc., is not something we'd done prior to that. It was usually like just kind of a bit more free flow, longer song structures. It felt really refreshing, and I was like, this actually feels like it just I kind of connect with it in a much more like immediate way. So yeah, that one, I remember when we first played it together in the practice room, just looking at each other, being like, okay, this is like new and exciting.
Yeah.
With like, this, yeah, it just felt like the chemistry was like it ended up going somewhere we weren't expecting it to, and so I think we did a good job kind of capturing that energy on the record as well. It's like it sounds a lot more like us as a band in the room. There's no click track, and there's like lots of mistakes everywhere, and we kind of just left that in because that's how we sound. So in terms of like when it came to um, like the track order, I was like, yeah, this like goes straight into it. I wanted the album not to have like a long intro build up, just kind of like you hit play and you're just like slammed
You're in
with
it.
this like
Yeah.
instant, yeah, you're in it kind of thing. And yeah, single, it that also made sense. It was like, it's got a hook, it's got a chorus. It's kind of like it would, we felt a bit weird about putting the first song on the album out as a single, but we were just like, fuck it, it would be dumb not to. It's like it's the catchiest
It
song on the
fits so
record.
perfectly.
Let's just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And so you're releasing this album next month. And I read that you thought that the producer Stanley Kravitz was like crucial to making this album. What role did he play, and how do you balance kind of like his input versus the band as a whole?
Yeah, so Stan is someone that we kind of got to know over time. He was like originally a friend of our singers, and his studio is located right below a record shop that we all used to go to. Well, we still go to, called Crypt of the Wizard in London. Um, and so we had kind of we'd worked with him on a single first, and kind of like liked how that came out, and then just decided we wanted to go with him for the album. And the thing that was really good is that because we had that kind of relationship with him already, we were sending him demos like as we were writing it, and he was giving us feedback. Um, and yeah, we actually came into the studio to do like an actual pre-run of like pre-production demos, which we'd never done before. So I think we had a good idea of like what we're gonna sound like this time around. And yeah, I think Stan is very like he's very outspoken in terms of like what he likes and what he doesn't. So a lot of it we took on board, and we did like adjust a lot of things, and he gave us some really good feedback. But then on the other hand, there is that like energy of like this is ultimately it is our band, and he did, he respected like decisions that he maybe didn't always agree with, but I think ultimately that's just how it is. That's how that dynamic always is,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Awesome. And the last thing about this album specifically that I want to get into is the actual like physical media, the CD, the vinyl variants, and everything. Which
Yeah.
in editing, I'll put some pictures of up on the screen. But of the vinyl variants, I mean, I'm not sure about you. Do you have a favorite design of the three, or just in terms of the design in general, what went into making this look or this design?
So in terms of the vinyl variants, like the colors, that was Relapse's like ideas.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, it all looks amazing. I think, just the standard like blood one, it fits perfectly with the artwork. Yeah, I mean that's kind of more them in terms of they know what people will buy. So like we just trusted
Yeah.
them, and we're like, yeah, we'll go with what you recommend. Um, but like the design of the like the artwork and the layout and stuff, that's all us. So like the cover is like it's a picture that this photographer called Oscar Foster Kane, who's like someone we got introduced to via some friends, took for us, and it was like we were there. We kind of wanted to put together sort of like a bit of like a kind of crime scene. Basically, the theme of the album is about like how we perceive and consume violent content and kind of what that does to you as a person and etc. I mean, but so that's what we wanted to do. And so the photographer worked with us and he found a location that we kind of had to trespass into and like yes, sneak into this abandoned building basically. And like if I think we're all really happy with it because we got our hands dirty and like if you saw a picture like of a body in some of the promotional material, that's
I
me.
didn't see that. You're the
Okay,
body
well,
guy. Got it.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's like we've done artwork in the past where we've like commissioned someone to draw something, and that's very cool. But it feels like we put a bit more of ourselves into the design this time, which is a
Yeah.
nice feeling.
Yeah. And I think kind of fits the album more well. Like again, while reading it, I forget who said it, but someone said it wanted to feel like seeing it, you walk down on like a crime scene, which definitely feels like it, which probably the abandoned building also
Yeah,
gives that vibe off
yeah,
and everything. Um,
yeah. We didn't want it to be like, instant shock value either, where it's kind of like the picture is actually a very pretty picture, like the colors are really nice, and it's only like
yeah,
when you actually look at the detail that you realize, oh wait, that's not good. What's there?
yeah.
Are you a music artist trying to find a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible? Then check out DistroKid. DistroKid is a super user-friendly and super easy-to-use service that will make your music available in stores like Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, Snapchat, everything. Everything you could imagine, it's available. People will even be able to add your songs into their Instagram stories. DistroKid helps you with the distribution, monetization, and promotion of all of your music. Use the link in the description of this video for 7% off any DistroKid package you want. Pick from musician packages designed to help artists get their own music out there, or even get a label package where you can manage up to 100 artists from one profile. So that's more for like managers, labels, and you can also get the musician package that I mentioned earlier, which is more for artists, producers, things like that. It's super easy, and you can get 7% off any package right now with the link in the description of this video. So once again, if you're looking for a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible, I'm talking any platform you can think of, get DistroKid and get 7% off right now with the link in the description. Back to the program.
I wanted to get into some of your other music also. Devotion, from what I could tell, is your most streamed song on Spotify. Did you have a certain feeling about that song when you made it, that it had something special, or that it might become your most streamed?
Um, I mean, I suspect it's our most streams because it was the opening track on the previous album.
Yeah.
People tend to just like, you know, listen to the first few tracks more than the
Yeah.
rest. But no, to be honest, like what we played that song live, and at one point we stopped because we were making way for other material, and that's the only song that someone's actually come up to us and been like, "Why didn't you play that song?" So there, I guess there is something to it. And no, I don't think I'd like envisaged that song um connecting in that way. It's very like it's very slow and moody, and it's kind of like this just sort of like eerie way to start the album. So it's not like it's the complete opposite of In His Blood, if you will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy that people like that song. I guess we're going to be bringing it back to our set because people asked for it. But yeah, no, I'm still happy with how that one came out.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. And then in terms of like accolades or just like kind of recognition from the industry, what was it like to be put on Time Out magazine's best albums of 2022 with that previous album that you mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. It's the kind of thing where like you can you know, obviously like all of our parents are like proud that the band's doing well and everything, but like, you know, um, and like no disrespect to yourself, but like my mom's probably not going to listen to this, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
podcast
No
interview.
worries.
Like so it won't mean much to her. But like if I tell her like, oh, we were in t timeouts, year end lists,
Yeah.
that that's a magazine that she reads
It
and
makes
it
it
means
real for
something.
her.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it was nice. We were as surprised as anyone to be featured there. We found out subsequently that the guy who put us in that list is someone who's involved in like the London heavy music scene that we ended up like knowing subsequently. So yeah, that's how that happened. Yeah, and I mean another thing that happened recently with In His Blood is this radio DJ on BBC One, which is like the main radio
Yeah.
broadcaster in the UK. In His Blood got played. I mean, it was late at night, like 10 p.m. But again, it's one of those things where like you tell people who are not into this kind of music and it means something to them. So it's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And so I guess, because like when I think of, and no offense meant by this or anything, but like radios and magazines, it feels like a kind of different era of music promotion and whatnot versus like nowadays it unfortunately feels like everyone's like pushing social media and promoting on there.
Mhm.
What are your general thoughts on just like the whole social media era of music and how involved it's become?
I mean, like it's kind of a necessary thing, and especially with the timing of our band, like when we kind of
Yeah.
came into being, when there was no opportunity to promote ourselves physically, so we were like, we have to do this, or no one's going to hear our music. It is what it is. I mean, I try to not spend too much time on it and just kind of set some boundaries. But yeah, I mean, everyone's kind of competing for your attention span. And obviously there's like tricks with the algorithm. So yeah, there's a lot of negatives to it. But,
Yeah.
you know, ultimately, if you can find a way to reach your audience, then why shouldn't you do it? I'd love to have like not the mystique, but like to be the kind of band where like you don't have to do that, but that's not sadly
Yeah.
not us. I mean, there are some metal bands like I don't know if you heard of like like Pissgrave and Black Curse who are kind of like
I've heard of Black
quite different.
Curse. Yeah.
Yeah, so like they don't have social media, but like they've just kind of established themselves through their label and through word of mouth, kind of just
Yeah.
without it. But
That's
that's kind of
awesome.
one in a million cases.
Yeah. Yeah. And it takes a certain level to you have to be at a certain level already to do that. It's hard to
Yeah.
get there without social media. And so is that kind of do you have a picture in your mind of like the level you want to reach with this band? Is that kind of the goal of like not needing social media, being able to kind of just focus on the music and focus on like performing?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's this huge like burden that we have to like post on Instagram or whatever, especially
Yeah.
now that we're on Relapse and they kind of like we have a lot of support with that. But in terms of what we're aiming to achieve, I mean, it's not necessarily a specific status or anything. It's more just like I think we all just want the band to be like sustainable for us for as long as possible, like not just financially, but being able to like do the shows we want to do, not feeling like we're pressured to take any kind of offers we don't want to do, and yeah, just writing stuff that we're still into. I think we'd like this band to be a project where each release is different from the last, and obviously, like some people will be on board with that, and others won't, which we're very aware of. And I guess all we can ask is for people to engage in some way. Like
Yeah.
I'd rather someone tell us that they didn't like a record than silence. So
Yeah. Or even if there's like, one record that they like, I'm glad that they can cling on to that and keep
exactly.
listening to that. There's something for them.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. It's like I never get when a band like changes and people get, upset about it. I'm like, you can still go back and
it
listen to
doesn't
their
take
older
away what
stuff
you
if
already
that's what
like
you
from
like.
them. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. And so in terms of the live performance, has there been a show that like has been kind of your favorite or that really stuck in your mind after performing?
Yeah, I mean, we got to play in Oslo in Norway last year. That was really cool, just in terms of like getting invited out there to play. And we're all like to some extent into black metal, and it's like, so we did all the touristy things while we were there. In the UK last year, we did a little tour, a headlining tour, and played in Scotland for the first time. And like, they, in my opinion, the Scottish kind of death metal scene is like the best in this part of the world in terms of like bands, but also fans. And so yeah, that was a pretty crazy reaction to our set.
Awesome, awesome. And with your own music, kind of building off that question of the released music, is there a song from the band that's been your favorite to just even to like listen to?
I mean, I think in His Blood, the title track is like it's I'm really happy with that one. I think we did kind of like pick the best one for the single.
Hmm.
There's a song called Contraband on the new album, which I don't know if you've been sent the promo for it yet, but when you do hear it, it's a bit of a departure from what we've done before, and I think it's a bit of a creative risk that we've taken, bringing in some different influences, some kind of non-metal, maybe kind of I don't want to give too much away, but kind of
Yeah,
post-punk
no worries.
type stuff. Um, so yeah, that's a song that I think I'm really happy that we stuck to our guns and put on the album. We've played it live once and it went down really well. So fingers crossed people are into that one.
Yeah, yeah, that fingers crossed could be the big one from this album.
Uh, don't know about that,
Um,
but yeah,
yeah, yeah. And so what I guess in terms of the the I'm trying I'm trying to think of how I should phrase this like w without trying to give anything away without keep
yeah.
whatever you need to yourself. Are there any plans for like other singles before the full album comes out?
Yes. I don't know when this is getting released, but
Yeah.
later this week there will be new music.
Okay, yeah, that'll be out by the time this is out. This is going to be coming out pretty close to the album release, I think. And so,
Okay.
um,
So yeah, the
yeah,
the plan is for there to be two more singles leading up to the release. So people will get and that track Contraband that I mentioned is one of them. So
awesome.
you'll have heard it
Yeah,
before the album comes out.
yeah, I'm
Hopefully
excited
it won't
to,
put too many people off from buying the record.
yeah, excited to hear it, and hopefully it just shows the different sounds that you guys will have in the new album. Um, And
Hmm.
so to start wrapping things up here with a couple more like hypothetical questions, if Vacuous could make a song with any band or artist in the world, who would you want to collaborate with?
I don't know. I'd want it to be something. I don't think I'd want us to just write with another death metal performer.
Yeah, you want
Did you say
some difference in it or some variation.
yeah? Did you say living or dead, or does it have to be alive?
It can be either. I didn't specify either way, so
Okay.
um, yeah.
I think I mean writing with Peter Steele from Typo Negative. He'd probably hate our band, but I think that would be kind of insane. Just because I think he's a creative genius. But yeah.
You don't think you'd like the
So
Vacuous sounds?
I I don't know. He was in obviously he was in Carnivore, so he was into like punky stuff. So he might appreciate
Hmm.
that side of us. But I don't get the vibe that he was a big death metal guy.
Got it. Got it. And then in terms of live shows, do you have bucket list of like venues or festivals that you want to play?
Yeah, I mean, in London, there's this venue called the Underworld, which is like sort of one of the main neighborhoods where shows happen. It's called Camden in London, and it's like kind of iconic. It's not a big place. We haven't played there for whatever reason, but yeah, it's kind of on my list to play at the Underworld at some point. I've just been there to see so many bands that it would just feel like a cool thing. Festivals. There's a really cool festival that I go to sometimes as a fan called Brutal Assault in the Czech Republic. I don't know if you've heard of it.
And
But it's like it's this kind
yeah,
of like old I don't know, 18th, 19th century fortress basically, and there's like a stage in the middle, and that's like the festival site. So it's like super atmospheric. Anyway, I'd love
that's
to
so
play there one
awesome.
day. So if the organizers hear that, please book us.
Yeah, yeah. If you have any connections to, it was brutal assault, you said,
Yeah,
or
Brutal Assault
yeah,
in the Czech
brutal
Republic.
assault in the Czech Republic. Let them know about Vacuous. Send in a demo tape, whatever you can, whatever you can do. But yeah, Michael, thank you so much for coming on. I'm so excited to hear the album in full. The single is coming out before then, and yeah, I can't wait to see what's next for the band.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and yeah, excited for everyone to hear it. And yeah, let me know what you think.